Welcome to 1991 Movie Rewind, a podcast where we watch and review every movie released in 1991, from the all-time greatest classics to the critically panned and everything in between. We will rediscover forgotten fan favorites and uncover hidden gems as we explore the depths of direct-to-video. Join us in our celebration of the fun, unique, and diverse films of this highly underrated year. This week, we watch Barton Fink.
Hi, this is Nikki.
And this is Jon, and thank you for joining us on 1991 Movie Rewind. Barton Fink is a playwright who recently found critical acclaim with his New York stage show, almost immediately after Hollywood Comes Calling. Reluctant at first, Barton decides to take up residence in a rundown LA hotel and get to work on his first assignment, but can't get past the first paragraph. Screenplay by Ethan Coen and Joel Cohen, directed by Joel Cohen, and released on August 21st, 1991. Have you seen Barton Fink before?
No, I have not.
I don't know if I have.
Okay.
I know I've seen Naked Lunch, and I sort of get those two confused, I guess, in a way, because they're both dealing with writers in isolated spots who are dealing with some level of paranoia. But I'm gonna lean towards that I have not seen it. If I had, I didn't really remember much.
I've seen this cover a million times. I just never thought to watch it.
Yeah. I mean, even though it's Coen Brothers, too. Coen Brothers has this prestige or this, not exactly cult following, because they're big enough to sort of be beyond that, but, you know, they're filmmakers where virtually everything that they watch, aside from, let's say, Lady Killers, is worth watching.
I mean, there are others.
Yeah, there are others.
But yeah, Lady Killers.
I just remember seeing that in the theater and hating it. But some of their movies are really hard to describe. So, when I was trying to come up with how to do this summary, it was pretty difficult. Anyone who's seen the movie knows I was being extremely vague and basic with what I just said in that opening paragraph. And part of that is I don't want to go beyond the first act when writing a summary, even though in these podcasts we spoil the whole movie.
Yeah.
That's just part of the natural thing. But my inclination is treat it as if I'm writing a box back, and you don't want to give away the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew nothing about this movie. I just knew the name, and it was Coen Brothers.
So with that in mind, what did you think of the whole thing? Because I went into it with a certain expectation, I guess, and it didn't meet that.
Oh.
So coming in as someone without any sort of preconceived notions, what did you think?
I liked it more than I thought I would.
Okay. Because you seemed bored to me when I anytime I was glancing over at you, you seemed like you were completely checked out.
Oh, no. I think when we were watching this, I was very I was looking, because when we're watching these movies, I'm Googling is this a real I was is this a real story? Is this based on real life? Is this is this that? I was looking at I had 20 different tabs open. Okay,
so it wasn't that you were checked out, you were immersed in the lore on your computer.
Yeah, I was trying to find out, is this a real story?
Okay.
But, okay.
Yeah, I got the impression that you were bored to tears and waiting for it to be over. I was more on the side of I kind of want more to happen. Because I think, again, I was probably confusing it somewhat with Naked Lunch. And I was assuming that things were going to get crazier and wackier a lot earlier than they did. Because it really only kind of ramps up to that level in the last, 15 minutes or so of the movie. But they allude to things throughout the whole thing. There's the eerie vibe of the hotel. There's, the wallpaper peeling. There's the mosquito that's, tormenting him in the room. The consistent, wave crashing and, the picture of the girl. It seems like he's going through some sort of, a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
And I thought that would manifest itself visually or in the plot at some point, and it just doesn't.
Really, yeah.
Except for maybe the last 15 minutes, because it's really hard to know what's real and what's not in that portion. And even when you get to the death in this, which I know will kind of spoil, but I don't want to like dive too deep into that yet. But like, even when you get to the death, I wasn't 100% sure, is this real or not? Or is this where the crazy what's in his mind and what isn't happening? So I wasn't even sure if that person was really dead at the time. And I think also partly what's moving my expectations a bit is like the taglines for the movie, because before we even start these things up, I'm looking up like box office information, I'm looking up taglines, I'm looking up awards and some of the cast and crew information. And here are the taglines for this movie, right? We got between heaven and hell there's always Hollywood. That's probably the most accurate one of these. Another one is what's in his head. Okay. And then the third one is there's only one thing stranger than what's going on inside his head, what's going on outside. So both like those taglines lead me to believe, oh yeah, we're going to go into like the psychosis and the paranoia and like craziness of things.
Yeah.
Like we're going to see batshit crazy stuff happening. We're going to see wackiness. And it doesn't happen. It's just this dude staring at a picture and then like staring at the words on his typewriter or lack thereof, and then just being bothered by it. So I don't know, that's sort of where my mind went, is I was looking for more, and maybe that was just unrealistic. So from my perspective, not a lot happens, but you have a lot of interactions, right? So Barton Fink is kind of thrown into this whirlwind, played by John Turturro, and with like Eraserhead type hair.
Yeah.
So he's kind of thrown into this whirlwind where like he has like, you're greeted at the very beginning of this movie as New York City, 1941, and the war plays a very minor like role. It's mostly like setting the stage of what era of Hollywood you're looking at.
Yeah. And
some of the people in this were real people, or represented real people, from what I could tell. But he's off on the side of his stage play. It's just ending, and it's like he's brought out for a standing ovation, and then like immediately his agent's like, LA wants to hire you for $1,000 a week to be a studio picture writer. You can always do your art on your own time. Take the money, take this opportunity when you can.
Right.
And he has like a couple little meetings in some fancy highfalutin restaurant, and like the whole time he's basically poo-pooing the whole thing, acting like he's the tortured artist type. It's like, oh well, all this stuff doesn't appeal to me. I can't listen to what the critics say. I'm writing for the everyman and all this kind of stuff. But he still at some point goes to LA, obviously, because that's where the movie takes you. And so very quickly he moves to the hotel where things really, where all the important characters come into play. Well, after Chet. Chet's not really important in terms of the story, but the hotel is important because that hotel was very creepy, very eerie. Yeah. I forget what they call it in this movie.
It's the Earl Hotel.
The Earl Hotel.
Hotel Earl or Earl Hotel.
Yeah. So it's, very big, wide open. You never see anybody aside from 3 people in that hotel. You see Chet, like the door person.
Yeah, who's the bellhop / front desk, everything.
Everything, shoe shiner.
Yeah, he does. He's kind of like does everything.
Yeah, he's
kind of like
the
movie
worker.
4 Rooms. If you've seen that, like,
sure.
Like he just does everything.
I've heard that this was sort of inspired by like The Shining, in a sense as well.
Yeah, like with the shot with the long hallways and stuff.
Yeah. So you have Chet, played by Steve Buscemi, by the way, who in 1991 was also seen on Nickelodeon in that first, as Ellen's dad in the Pete and Pete shorts.
Yeah.
That was in 91 as well, so that's how I knew him first.
Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was from the Pete and Pete shorts. So that was also happening around the same time as Barton Fink. But yeah, like you have this big old... the other two people you see in the hotel are the elevator person. The elevator operator, I forget his name.
Yeah.
And then you have John Goodman's character, Charlie Meadows, which we'll get into later. But those are the only three people you see. So like when he walks through this very long, open lobby, there's nobody. It's a completely empty hotel. It looks run down. There's plants everywhere, which makes it look nice, but it's like this big open thing, and it just looks like it's halfway to the level of rundown that we saw in Double Impact. If we want to reference another movie we've watched. And the hallway is like basically the same thing too. It's just like it looks kind of dirty and nasty. And then obviously once you get in the room, it's very very shoddy. The wallpaper is peeling because it's so incredibly hot in that room, or at least that's the reason that it's given, is that it's just so hot that the wallpaper is peeling off and just everything looks so gross. But it adds a lot of character. It's where you spend half the movie. So the luster wears off, and you can only see wallpaper peel so many times before it gets repetitive and kind of boring to me. So anyway, he goes from that into the studio head's office. He's meeting with Jack Lipnick of Capitol Pictures. And everything Fink says is amazing. And he's like, what you would expect from a studio head. Yeah, he absolutely loves him, wants, everything you say is perfect.
Whatever you want to do is whatever I think is great.
Yeah.
Just whatever.
And he's talking
just like all for him.
Talking a million words a minute. He's like this mix of like hyper and like angry and, going off on random tangents. All this kind of stuff that you kind of would expect to see from like a studio head character from the 1940s. And he's given the assignment to write this wrestler picture starring Wally Beery. And he needs to have his first draft by the end of the week. And then off he goes. Wally Beery, I believe, is a real person. Walter Beery.
A real wrestler?
Real actor.
Oh, okay.
I didn't go too deep into it, but I believe he is a real actor that they're referencing there. And then John Mahoney's character, W.P. Mayhew, I believe was based off of...
William Faulkner.
Yeah.
I mean, these are the things that I was trying to look up, and...
That was the lore you were looking up.
Yeah, there was a lot of lore. I mean, so these two writers, Barton Fink is loosely based off of a writer called Clifford Odets. He was a playwright in the 30s, and pretty much
same trajectory.
Yeah, same trajectory as what Barton Fink is. He was a playwright and then novelist. And I didn't want to say idolized, but inspirational writers was William Faulkner, which, what we see in the movie, like how Barton Fink is very moved by W.P. Mayhew as a novelist. And then I also learned that Faulkner was the one that was supposedly had to write a book about a wrestler as well. So these are just kind of loosely based off of this, of their real lives, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that probably helps the people who really have a knowledge of history of old Hollywood appreciate.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Barton's tasked with going to write, and he is immediately met with constant distractions, whether it's the wallpaper or the mosquito, or most noticeable at this moment is the noise coming from next door. And so he complains through the phone to Chet, but Chet tattles on him, and so the next door neighbor comes over, knocks on the door, basically barges in, apologizing for the noise, and we meet John Goodman's character, the insurance salesman Charlie Meadows. Immediately, I could tell that John Goodman was going to be the best part of the movie. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think, John Goodman is usually the best part of most of these Coen brother movies that he's in.
That's probably true. I think...
He always plays this character. Like, the eccentric character.
And always in a different way.
Yeah.
Is what's... I don't know. I think John Goodman is probably one of the...
like, best actors.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, he's obviously appreciated and beloved, but he's not, like, celebrated critically in the way that I think he probably should be. Now, granted, we're not going to see that type of performance in King Ralph when we get to that in 1991, but...
I mean, yeah, I know. Yeah, I was thinking, like, oh, we're going to have to watch him in King Ralph. I remember King Ralph.
Yeah. So we'll get to that at some point. But I mean, like, you know, okay, so just talking about awards really quickly, just as sort of like a sidebar. He won an Emmy, but not for Roseanne. He won an Emmy for a guest spot on Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip.
Like, so late in his
so much later. I feel like that was sort of like we're sorry you didn't win for any of the 10 times you were nominated previously for this award. Like, 7 of those were for Roseanne. We're sorry you didn't get any of those. Here you go. Have this guest spot one.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, in 1991, he wasn't that same level of actor, but this allowed him to show a little bit more range than what he was showing in Roseanne. Up to this point, he had done stuff like bit parts in like Chud and Revenge of the Nerds, right? He had done Raising Arizona with the Coen brothers, which is probably his meatiest role in terms of, you know, acting chops. And then he did Arachnophobia, which is probably his biggest like box office thing before this. And King Ralph, of course, was bigger box office wise. But yeah, honestly, like, he's since then, I'll talk about his past 1991 stuff once we get to King Ralph. And he's just like so incredibly like charming and slick, and, you know, he can do whatever he needs to do in any given moment here. And in this moment, he's trying to, one, kind of placate Barton by saying, I'm sorry I caused this mess, while still looking obviously annoyed that that complaint was levied against him. And then 2,
trying to be like
try to make a friend. Be charming, try to make a friend. And 3, in sort of like a subtext, try to like weasel in and try to make an insurance sale. You know? Like, he has that little aspect too, is like trying to bring everything back to the concept of insurance so that Barton can maybe like get into that. But Barton's off in his own head, and he's ranting and raving about how important he is and ignoring Charlie's comments like nonstop. Like, several times Charlie in that conversation says, well, I could tell you some stories. And Barton's like, I bet you could, but let me tell you about how I need to like focus in on how the everyman works, while he has an everyman sitting on his bed right there that he's completely ignoring. So it's really interesting.
He needs to write his movie about this wrestler, and he doesn't want to focus on this guy's stories.
Yes, he can't be distracted by anybody who might actually legitimately help him with these things. He has to rant and rave about how important he is. And you kind of just realize in this moment, and also in other spots and other conversations, that basically just everyone in this movie is bullshitting everyone else. Right? They're just talking in such a way that they want to increase their own self-worth. And that's their whole purpose in the movie. You know, they're just bullshitting and making themselves, you know, give them the inflated ego. And that's why they're there. That's why they exist. So after the interaction with Charlie, we get introduced to Ben Geisler.
Tony Shalhoub.
Tony Shalhoub's character, Ben Geisler. Tony Shalhoub of Monk, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and of course at this time Wings, which started in 1991. Or at least he started on that sitcom in 1991. That's how I do him. He plays basically the producer of the movie. And so Barton goes to him for advice, saying, I'm having trouble getting started. I don't know what to do. And, you know, Geisler is basically just like a lower rung version of the studio head, but just with more attitude and contempt.
Yeah, he's just like, I don't know, get it done, figure it out. And maybe consult with someone who can help you.
Yeah, it's like this whole restaurant's full of writers. Throw a rock, find one.
Yeah, find one and ask them how to write this movie for you. Or
don't bother me with these problems.
Yeah.
And that's how he gets in touch with W.P. Mayhew.
Yep.
Who he meets in the bathroom of... Is it of that same restaurant?
Yes.
We think. And Mayhew's throwing up in the stall. They arrange to meet together in the afternoon. But when he arrives, Mayhew is ranting and like yelling about like honey and like I need my honey. Where's my honey?
Yeah.
And like he's obviously
throwing
like
things,
out
having
of it
a fit.
Yep.
You don't see it. You just hear him.
Yeah, yelling and crying off screen. And Audrey opens the door, which is played by Judy Davis, making her second week in a row appearance on this podcast after Impromptu. Plays Audrey Taylor, who is basically his assistant / secretary / lover.
Yeah.
And Audrey lets Barton know what's up with him, basically just like
saying when he's not writing, he's drinking all day.
Yeah.
Which is, and it seems like he's not writing much.
Right.
Because we find out that she's like his ghostwriter.
Yeah, later on we find out
and she pretty much wrote most of his books.
Yep, exactly.
Which is, I don't think, what happened in real life with Faulkner. I don't think Faulkner had this relationship with anyone.
Yeah, maybe not. But I would imagine that there probably are some famous people that did have that type of situation that we'll never know about.
I just don't think this happened with Faulkner.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to correct myself already.
Okay.
Like, Faulkner, he worked on a wrestling film called Flesh, which was starred Wallace Beery, the actor.
Okay.
So, yeah, they're loosely taking these stories from...
They're alluding to things that people of probably older persuasions or just who are more in tune with, like, the 1940s cinema scene will know than us. But it's also kind of interesting that Judy Davis basically plays a writer in 2 weeks in a row on this podcast, too.
Yeah, but I liked her in this movie more than Impromptu.
I mean, yeah, her character is more likable. There's, like, I don't know. I didn't find her character in Impromptu to be too redeemable. I don't know. There's no, like, characteristics to latch on to in Impromptu. Mm-hmm. Here, she's, just like a normal human being who's like trying to...
she's kind of stuck in this situation.
Trying to navigate this weird...
Because I think what she says is that he gets jealous. I mean, this is later on. Mm-hmm. And... she has to wait until he goes to sleep or pass out for her to just leave the apartment. Because if she leaves without him, he's like, where the hell are you? Type of thing.
Yeah.
They're just, I don't know. It seems like she's just his companion for every single thing.
Yeah, she's kind of trapped.
Yeah. And
partly because he's also her conduit for... the creativity, right? So like he comes up with like maybe like the outlines and ideas is what she says. Who knows how much of that is true? And then she basically creates everything from there. Like she does the story or the script. So they kind of need each other in that professional level as well. Obviously he needs her more than she needs him, but she still feels like she's I don't know. It's a complex relationship that doesn't really get to pan out in front of our eyes too much, but you can still get the glimpse of what's going on. But yeah, like all the time that this is happening, there are several scenes that are in the hotel room where something happens, the wallpaper peels, or he's just staring at the thing, and then
he's staring at the picture. It's
like a picture of a woman
noises.
At the beach from behind, and he hears the waves crashing against the rock.
But he's hearing noises through the walls.
Yes. But he's also imagining the waves crashing, and you see the visuals of that.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, this is where this is where I was thinking, like, when he's in this hotel, I started thinking of, like, oh, is this, like, some sort of purgatory? Is this, like, heaven? Well, I mean, not heaven, but, like, hell or purgatory. And he's just stuck there. And, you know, all of this is in his head. Like, even the peeling of the wallpaper.
Yeah,
and is all of this true?
I think that's valid, and I think that's sort of what I was trying to think too. It's like, at this point, we're pretty much at the halfway mark of the movie, so are we going to start to see him go crazy? And I think purgatory is probably exactly what Coen Brothers were looking for, you know, especially with that tagline, between heaven and hell, there's always Hollywood.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, that's obviously something that I think you're correctly latching onto. But we don't get the answer soon enough, in my opinion. So, like, there's, like, little tiny hints that keep on floating in. So we got the mosquito, you got the wallpaper, and at this point we also have the shoes that are too big. Remember, like, so every day there are a lot. So even though we only see 3 other people besides Barton in this hotel, there are tons of other people, because every day you see a line of shoes in the doorway, because Chet says that, you know, they offer a shoe shine service, and so he's returning all the shoes that he shined along and placing them on the doors, in front of the doors. And his shoes get switched with Charlie's, which you learn after he puts on his shoes and sees that they're too big, and it kind of makes me, you know, oh, is this where he's going to start going crazy? Like, is this like a visual thing? Is it, I mean, like, I was thinking that... Is it a metaphor for he's in too deep?
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking that I wonder if John Goodman or Charlie Meadows did that on purpose, like took his shoes on purpose, just to have another interaction with him.
That could be too, yeah.
Or was it really just a simple... Because they did have similar shoes, but who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, it could be a simple switch up, or Charlie could have used that as an excuse, absolutely.
Because, I mean, what is happening near the end of the movie, I was like, oh, is he using this guy for something?
Right. Yeah.
To latch on to him, to become friends with him.
To then take advantage of it in some way.
Yes.
That's a good theory. I like that theory. In my mind, when I was watching the movie, though, I was like, oh, the shoes are too big. Okay, it's finally happening. We're going to see some crazy shit. And then it just doesn't happen. And I was like, okay.
I was thinking that was done on purpose.
It could be. I was thinking it was like a mental breakdown thing. So, yeah. That happens, and then shortly after that, Audrey is called in to help, right? Because, you know, even though... I
mean, however, I think like 2 months go by, and he still has written like a paragraph.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the producer, Tony Shalhoub, or Ben Geisler, is like, how's it going?
Yeah, it's like, hey, you're supposed to present something to Lipnick tomorrow.
Right.
And I told him it was great.
Yeah, so can you give me, you know, outlines or whatever you have right now? And that's when he starts freaking out.
Because he absolutely has to have this meeting where he talks about something tomorrow morning. And he has nothing except for this paragraph that he keeps rewriting
and
over and
it's
over
been
again.
A couple months. Because I think they say it's been 8 or 9 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, and he's like, you're just getting started? So he enlists Audrey to come and help because he needs something. And W.P. Mayhew is worthless.
Right. Or just doesn't really... Well, yeah,
they meet. As a threat.
They meet at like an outdoor setting, like in a picnic or something.
Yeah.
And to talk about, you know, this movie, and W.P. Mayhew is too drunk to even say anything or whatever. He just walks off and starts singing a song and like almost gets hit by a car and yada yada, and Audrey has to follow him just to bring him back. He like pushes her down, and then she comes back. She comes back, but then that's when she tells Barton, I'm the ghostwriter.
Yeah.
And then that's when he asks her to come over.
Actually, no.
For help.
I have it written down that she admitted that at the hotel.
Oh, I thought she admitted it after they met up outside and that.
I think she alluded to it, but at the same, because I have that he gets incensed at Audrey writing Bill's books and scripts. So maybe she did say that at the park, but then he just sort of goes off on
she just
the whole
comes out
situation.
And says, "Hey."
It's like, yeah, everyone needs help, and I did this, and I did this, and I did this.
Yeah, and when they after
because it was at the hotel where he's like, did you write, like, did he even write his own books? And she's like, oh yeah, no, that's
me.
Did the outline.
I think that was the second time he went to the hotel. He goes to the hotel twice. The first time to meet him after they meet in the restaurant, I guess. That's when he's screaming about honey. And she's like, when he's not writing, he's drinking. And she pretty much says, hey, I'm the secretary. Slams, closes the door. She doesn't say anything like I'm his writer.
No, I'm saying like when he gets incensed at Audrey writing the books and the script, that was in his hotel room. Because immediately after he gets goes through this rant, he just switches to a straight face. Well, we don't have much time. Let's get to work. Remember that? Like, he's like, and he doesn't even write his own books. Like, you wrote the books too. Like, he doesn't even write anything. What a fraud! And then he looks at her and is like, okay, well, help me out here. We don't have much time. It's like it's him not realizing that he's being hypocritical. Mm-hmm. That he's doing the exact same thing as his idol that he's now upset with. And so that took place in the hotel room for sure.
So, like, when she says that, he does all these outlines and I pretty much do the rest, that's when he's like, so you are actually because he idolizes...
Yeah, he's not mad at her, he's mad at
Mayhew, but now he idolizes her.
Yeah,
in a sense.
Yeah,
because she is the brains behind the books that are being written by Mayhew.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he brought Audrey over to his room and she had to sneak out just to get like some sort of inspiration or help, because that's what the secretary was doing for Mayhew. And then he had that revelation or learned that Mayhew basically never wrote any of his stuff. It was all her, and he got all crazy and he's like, well, we don't have much time. Let's get my script done. Let's get my outline done.
But that doesn't even happen because then after they talk about that, they sleep together.
Right, yeah. The actual outline work does not actually happen.
It doesn't even happen at all.
I was just saying that's when that interaction happened in the movie, is at the hotel. They go into this... As they're getting into their sexual encounter, the camera moves off from them in the bed. Mm-hmm. And it pans over to the bathroom door, which is open. Pushes in and up and down into the sink drain. Yeah,
and you hear the moaning and kind of like screaming too. This is where I was also thinking we can go back, because when Barton Fink initially made the complaint about the noises through the walls, he was hearing like sexual noises.
Yeah.
And
from the person like on the other side of him, not Charlie's side, but the other side.
Yeah. And that's what I was starting to think. Is this him hearing himself? Like the person future? In the future, yes. This is where, he heard the sexual moaning in the beginning of the movie, or when he first moved into the hotel. And then, he has sex with her. She's making that same moaning sounds as he hears through the walls. That's when I started thinking, is that him hearing himself from the past?
I like that theory. I I have a hard time usually thinking about movies in that deep type of way.
This is where my mind was going.
Well, I'm glad one of our minds is going that place.
You were like, you're the one who was getting bored, and I was like thinking hardcore deep into this.
Well, that's good. I mean, that kind of makes me want to like revisit certain scenes of this movie, and like when we see the shoes in the hallway, how similar are they? Right? Because if
they're
the room,
the same color.
Yeah, they're the same
brown.
color, but like maybe it's more than that. Because if the room next to him was him in a different time period, then that would probably mean that endless hallway is really just his room repeating, him and Charlie repeating over and over again, and we can see a pattern of shoes.
Yeah, it's just them with their shoe. Maybe it's their same shoes. It's the daily shoes in a row down this hallway.
And it's just
because that hallway is a really long hallway, kind of like The Shining, where it just extends.
Yeah, it seems endless.
Yeah, to infinity. So if this is like some weird long hallway that extends into infinity, maybe it's just like one room across another room, and it's their room extending into infinity.
Yeah, it could be. What I got out of that scene was just that just means his career is like going down the drain, like literally. Right?
Oh, okay.
You know, because like the camera's like literally going down the drain.
So
like I got that from it.
I didn't think that. I was thinking, is this like some weird warp from time, like time and space or something?
Well, that's why we have these conversations, right? This is why the podcast is good, or at least in my opinion. It's we get these different perspectives and we're looking at different things.
But, I mean, after that happens, we find out that she's killed.
Yeah,
he wakes up.
He wakes up because of the mosquito again. And it lands on her skin.
And she's not even flinching or anything, so he kind of smacks the mosquito and, kills it.
Yeah.
And there's blood on... This is another thing, where there's blood on his hand.
Mm-hmm. It turns into a big old... splotch of blood.
Even though it's mosquitoes, when you smack a mosquito, you're not going to get like a whole handful of blood.
Right, exactly.
That's where that's where my mind wandered again. But he turns her up because he did like a really big smack, and she didn't even flinch or anything. And then he tries to wake her up and just pulls her over, and she's like gutted.
Yeah, he's horrified by the amount of blood. And then he looks back and he sees that blood's like draining from underneath her as well.
Yeah,
and he's like, oh my god, what's going on? And he turns her over and she's like been gutted, killed and opened somehow.
And he freaks out.
And so this is where I'm like, okay, this is where the fantasy stuff is happening, because when you smack a mosquito, yeah, you're right. Like, you shouldn't have like a big, huge
pool of blood in your
hand from just a mosquito. So
yeah,
we're starting to see the crazy manifest.
Yeah, and
so is she really dead or not?
Yeah, but then I was thinking, did he kill her? Right. And he didn't know about it because he's starting to go crazy.
Yeah. So this is where the movie's like starting to actually pick up and get interesting again.
Yeah.
And it took a while because this is like 2/3 in. So you have to really kind of slog through a lot of setup to get to this point, in my opinion. And like some of the stuff is just repeated too many times. But now we're into the interesting stuff. So he enlists Charlie to help because he's the only friend, practically only other person.
The only person he knows, like the only person he's talked to really besides his, his producer or like whoever on the movie.
Exactly. And Charlie's like, well, I have to leave for New York, but like he's like, okay, I'm gonna take care of this, but I have to leave for New York. Go about your normal routine, do your normal business. And I'll be back in a few days. Hold on to this box until I get back. And so Barton goes and meets Lipnick at his house. And he's supposed to have this treatment, which didn't happen because they decided to have sex instead. They didn't work. They just had sex and fell asleep. And 2, she was then murdered. And so no writing was done. And so he's sitting there.
He thinks he's gonna get his ass chewed out, but
nearly catatonic, and he just makes up a bullshit excuse of like, well, as a writer, I don't want to reveal or anything until it's done. I have thoughts in my head. I know it's all planned out. I just have to put it on paper, but I don't want to ruin anything by saying it. Mm-hmm. And Lipnick eats it up.
Yeah.
But the lackey is like trying to say, no, this is clearly
bullshit.
A bullshit move.
But Lipnick is like, you're a true artist or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, the lackey Lou Breeze, played by John Polito, who also is a frequent Coen Brothers collaborator. He gets fired for saying, look, you're the boss, you're the studio's property, you gotta tell us what's in your head. Mm-hmm. And Lipnick's like, no, never mind. So he gets away with it.
But he goes back to the hotel and he writes like a madman, and he finishes this script.
And at the end, Lou is still employed, so he was temporarily fired. He was brought back. Yeah, he finishes the script. But is that before or after the detectives come into play?
During, I think. Well,
because the detectives read the final script, so
and he's like,
he must have met the detectives beforehand.
He goes back. He writes like a madman. The detectives show up once because they show up. They show up at the hotel.
Times. Yeah, they show up at the hotel because they know about the death. They know it happened like in the vicinity, or is it just that they're looking for Charlie?
They're looking for Charlie. No, because he goes down to the lobby. The detectives are down there. He thinks he's going to get arrested because of the death of Audrey.
Yeah.
I mean, Charlie said he was going to take care of it. He just took her body, but you don't know what happened.
How. Yeah, we don't know.
But, I mean, Barton Fink's bed is still bloody. Mm-hmm. And, he didn't get rid of that, or I don't know.
Can't call check for that, I guess.
Yeah, no. But, he goes down to the lobby, meets with these detectives. He thinks he's going to get arrested immediately, but the detectives are like, hey, do you know this guy? And it's a picture of Charlie Meadows, but he is known as Carl Madman Munt, who is a serial killer. And his modus operandi, I guess, is beheading his victims, mostly women.
Yeah. And they said that Audrey was found with a body, but not a head.
Yeah.
So he's asked them a few questions. He gives them relatively honest answers. He says, he told me that he was an insurance salesman. He told me that he had to go out of town or whatever. Like, he was, being relatively honest, but, didn't tell them the full thing, I guess. Didn't tell them all the information that he knew.
You didn't tell him. He's not going to tell him about what happened with Audrey, because then he'll get in trouble. Yeah,
exactly. And then he goes about his day. He reads the script and whatever else, and
finishes it up. And I don't know. They come back. He goes out. Barton.
He goes out to present his script, and he's really happy that he's written the whole...
he's done with the script, and that's when he actually goes out to go dancing, because he's like, I am done, so I'm gonna party or whatever.
Oh, you know what? Before that even happens, though, probably one of my favorite scenes of the movie happens. This is before he meets the detectives, or maybe on the way to see them. Barton's in the elevator with Pete.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is where he's really starting to go crazy, right?
Right.
And so he's looking at the Bible in his room, and he sees his, the one paragraph that he's written in the book of Genesis in the Bible. Mm-hmm. So you can see that his mind's actually starting to go. And so after he leaves his room, he goes and meets up with, he goes down to the lobby, and he's in the elevator with Pete, and he's like, "Do you read the Bible, Pete?" And Pete's like, "The Holy Bible?"
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, I've heard about it.
No, he was like, I don't know, maybe. He was like, I think so.
I think so.
And but you would know.
I've heard about the Holy Bible.
Yeah, he's like, I've heard of it. I think so.
It's such a good interaction.
Right. That was on his way down to meet the detectives.
That's when he got to the detectives. And so.
Yeah. And then and then he goes and parties, and he's dancing, and
at the USO, and like again, inflated ego. He's like, I've just created the most
Right,
important
I created-
working man
you're right.
script ever made.
Like, yeah, he's dancing with a woman, and then some sailor comes in, cuts in, or he wants to dance with this woman, and Barton Fink is like, no, man.
It's like, no,
like, don't you know who I am?
Artist.
Like, my mind. It's my mind.
Yeah.
Like, you should be, like, because, the guy is like, hey, I'm a sailor. I'm going to be shipped off to war, basically, tomorrow. Can I dance with this lady? And he's like, no. Don't you know that I'm a writer and I'm God, basically?
Yeah. So he's having
like,
a grand old time.
I create things. I am like a god.
Yeah.
So then, yeah.
He's having a grand old time until all of the different military men beat him up for that interaction.
Yeah, he just gets punched in the face once, and then he kind of just falls to the ground, and then the whole room gets into a fight.
Yeah, they swarm into him. Yeah.
And, I don't know, he comes back.
He comes back, and the detectives are in his room reading his script.
Yeah.
Kind of shitting on it. He's like, this is garbage. And the one's like, oh, I kind of liked it. So, like, he has this mindset of, like, this is the greatest piece of cinema ever created. And the detectives are, like, immediate critics, like, it was okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But they're there because they found that W.P. Mayhew has also been found dead.
Yeah.
And they see the bloodstain
on his
the
bed
now.
And then they're like, okay, are you working with this guy? Are you working with Charlie Meadows?
Yeah. What do you know
and then
about
they're
Mont?
asking him, where'd he go, where is he, what did he do, blah blah blah, all these things, and Barton doesn't know.
Right.
And they handcuff him to his bed. Well,
yeah, they handcuff him to the bed because
Charlie
around
appears.
the same time Charlie comes back.
But is
they
when
don't notice that first.
They don't notice that because the room/whole hotel gets really, really hot and starts to go up in flames.
Yeah, the wallpaper is peeling in the hallways, which had not happened before. There's, the goop from the glue coming everywhere, and you start to see smoke and flames at the end of the hall.
Like coming down the hallway with just flames coming through the walls.
Yeah. And then
Charlie
/ Munt appears.
And then I was also thinking, like, this is a heaven and hell thing. Like, is Charlie the devil? Like, I started thinking of all of these things.
Yeah, I don't know if I would consider him to be the devil or just
a
demon.
Or some sort of like, demonic creature. And then I was thinking,
of hell, right?
Like, is Charlie really real? Is Charlie, like, I started getting, like, Fight Club type mentality. Sure. Like, is Barton Charlie?
Yeah.
Like, are they one and the same?
Yeah, you gotta think about those types of things in here, and you don't get good, clear answers most.
Not really.
But yeah, Charlie, the detectives, say freeze, put the case down because he's holding a briefcase, and he does, but then he opens it up and takes out a shotgun and immediately starts shooting the detectives and kills them while the flames rage along the hallway beside him. And then he frees Barton, explains why he did what he did. Because basically the whole thing was that this was somewhat of a revenge against Barton for complaining about the noise levels in that first interaction.
So he's gonna...
And he's like, that's why I'm picking on you, that's why you're involved in all this stuff, because I couldn't make a little bit of noise. And it's it's a very interesting situation. Meanwhile, obviously the hallways are still burning, but the rooms are fine. They're obviously very hot, but they're not burning up because this isn't, the fire doesn't act like a real fire. It acts like a fake fire, because it's like concentrated just in the hallways, just in those little areas. It doesn't spread to the entire hotel like a regular flame would. And so Charlie / Munt is explaining everything to Barton. They have their final confrontation. Charlie frees Barton from the handcuffs and walks out while the hall is still burning. Barton also just basically he leaves with the box. I think the next scene is him meeting with Lipnick again, where Lipnick tears his script apart, saying it's the most basic. It's terrible garbage, and you're a terrible person. We fired the producer for lying to us. We're not going to fire you. You are stuck under contract, but we are not going to publish a damn word for you. You are not free to do your own thing. Mm-hmm. You have to work for us for all time. But your words will not see the light of day. That's your punishment.
Yeah, this is more like heaven and hell type. I mean, and then it also, just reading other like random facts about this movie, it's kind of like, I think the Coen brothers were just also trying to say that this is what writer's block is about.
Yeah, I did see that they wrote this movie to sort of combat their own writer's block. Mm-hmm. Which and I can kind of see.
Kind of, you know, their take on how Hollywood is with, I mean, basically how writers are being treated. Or like maybe that's how they were treated. You know, they came up with a script and then they get shit upon. And they think, you know, in their minds, they're like, this is really great script. But then they take it to a producer or whoever and...
It's like, we just wanted a wrestling picture. We want high art.
Right. Yeah. We just want some simple thing.
Yeah, we don't want commentary on the plight of
don't
man.
Give me... yeah. And they get shit on. And then you feel like, shit. I don't know.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, this is a very meta movie in that way, right? Like, it's... You know, it's their own writer's block sort of manifesting itself. Also, you know, Munt/Goodman, who was a wrestler back in like his high school days or whatever, he is basically the wrestler that Barton's writing about, whether he realizes it or not. Like, you know, so like this is the wrestler picture. You know, there's a lot of parallels of what, you know, is being written. So it has that inception is the key word that most people would, you know, relate to now. It has that type of layer of like constructs within constructs. So yeah, everything kind of just like falls and collapses into itself in some form or fashion. Because yeah, the criticism of the movie at the end is, you know, it's about this movie that we're watching, right? Like, we don't want to watch a person who is wrestling with their soul. Mm-hmm. We just wanted a simple wrestling picture. We didn't want wrestling with the soul. We wanted actual physical wrestling. And obviously here I am saying I kind of wanted more physical wrestling in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like at the end, I got what I wanted. But I didn't want to see him wrestling with his soul for that long in such a repetitive manner. So I'm being the Lipnick in this situation.
Going back to when Charlie Meadows appears in that hallway... He's screaming at the two detectives, look upon me, I will show you the life of the mind. Yeah. So it's more of the mind again.
Yeah. So that line made you think, well, maybe this is Barton manifesting something?
Yeah. Or it's
projecting
like,
something?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to look up. I mean, is there some sort of connection between the two? Are they the same?
Sure.
Was Barton Fink actually the serial killer? Did he go? But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things that don't really fully get resolved in this for obvious reasons,
but,
I guess.
Right? I mean... Because, I mean, Barton just takes that box and his script and leaves this hotel, but does that hotel go down in flames? Because Charlie Meadows goes back into his room while this hotel is still up in flames.
I don't think so, because, like, again, like, the rooms were not burning.
But that entire hallway is going up in flames.
Well, no, but the flames were, like, dying down by the time Barton was leaving. Like, you could see, like, the charred remains, and it wasn't, like, a raging fire anymore. It was, like, smoldering.
Like, it just happened, and then...
It was concentrated, and it's done now. And so, like, it was already starting to go out while he was walking away.
But, I mean, I still just want to know how... I
wish we would have come back to the hotel to see if it reset.
Yeah.
or would have been repaired
Like,
in some way.
Was the hotel hallway even up in flames?
Right. And we don't get to know that. I mean,
Okay.
obviously there's no physical, scientific reason for it to go up in flames.
Right.
So that's the only clue that we have going for us, is that the flames followed Charlie as he ran down the hall with the shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they formed alongside of him. So that's the only clue that we got.
All right, well then, I don't know.
And then
there's just like a lot.
And then the last shot,
to think
or the last scene, is when he's at the beach, because he's, you know, he's under contract forever.
Yep.
Nothing's going to happen, so he goes to the beach. He goes to that rock that he's been dreaming about, and he sees a woman walking by, and she becomes basically the picture that was on the wall.
Yeah.
She poses like him, and she
talks
says,
to him. She's like,
"Oh,
it's a nice day.
It's like, oh,
what's in the box?"
Yeah,
this
what's
is
in
where
that box?
where
And-
I started to think, okay, we're going back to like more Brad Pitt movies. I started thinking about Seven,
of course,
and I was like, is this pre-Seven? Is someone's head in it?
It's definitely pre-7.
I know it's pre-Seven, but
and I think
did Seven take this from Barton Fink?
Yeah, I wonder.
That's another thing. I was trying to look all these things
You're
up.
trying to
I'm
look
like,
it up with Fincher?
I was like, is Barton Fink the same? Like, that's
Was
what
that
that's
the
what I was
expression?
doing throughout this entire movie. Like, is this connected with this?
I mean, the obvious
But I couldn't
shape
really
and size
find
of the
much
box
answers.
says
Yeah.
head,
Yeah.
right? At one point, Barton rattles it around, and he's, you know, hears the thuds. and
Yeah,
whatnot,
it's
which
someone's head.
it's almost definitely
Like, it
someone's
makes you
head,
think someone's. But is it?
but you never get.
It
to
can't
see
be Audrey's head because Charlie.
It could be.
But Charlie gives him the box while he's taking Audrey's body away, isn't it?
After. So, okay. Charlie took the body. He told Barton to go in the bathroom.
Yeah,
Barton passes out.
Yeah, he passes out, and then
And in that time,
yeah,
he could have easily beheaded her, carried the body out after he dropped off the package.
because I know
There was enough time where it could definitely be her head.
Because I know they show him pass out, and he's kind of glazed over, and you don't know for how long. He could have been sitting there in that room for days.
Yeah.
Or hours. You don't know how much time lapsed.
So all I'm saying is it's definitely feasible to be the head, because you don't
it could be Audrey's head.
You don't see the head, you just see him carrying out the body, and that was like it was separate from when he carried the body out from the room. It was him carrying the body from Charlie was carrying it from his room past the hallway. Anyway, that's how the movie ends. Is you know,
I just still have so
the
many
picture being
questions.
recreated.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm sure, a lot of the point, right? It's like, you don't get to have the resolution. And you don't always need resolution either. I think that's fine, especially in a movie that's meant to mess with your mind and like make you question whether or not things are real. Like even something like Total Recall, right? Where you could easily make an obvious decision to say, yeah, everything wrapped up completely nicely and neatly, and yes, there was some weird, you know, mind fucks along the way, but this does have a definitive resolution. But you could also think of it and say, no, there's actually some unanswered questions if you want to create them for yourself. So like any sort of like mind bending type of thing is going to have that. So I just wish it got into that territory a lot sooner, or that it gave us more stuff to think about besides the mosquito and the wallpaper for so long. That was my main gripe. Is like 2/3 of the movie was just wallpaper, mosquito, wallpaper, mosquito.
Well, I think it's
Give
just
me
like
more
a slow
to think about.
burn to what was going to happen.
Yes.
Like a slow build-up.
It was a very slow build-up. I just wish it had more of a progression. That was my major complaint with it. So let's quickly go through a little bit of the cast and crew that we hadn't talked about so far. We talked about most of the cast already. But Joel and Ethan Coen, we got to talk about them because this is their only 1991 movie, of course. They had 4 Oscar wins. They have the same 4 Oscar wins. 3 for No Country for Old Men, Best Picture, Best Director, Best Writer, or Screenplay. And then also the screenplay for Fargo got them their first Oscar. This movie was the first one to be nominated for Academy Awards of theirs.
Okay.
So these are part of their 11 nominations that they have besides those 4 wins. They had Oscar nominations for costume design and best art direction / set decoration. Both of those went to Bugsy instead. And then the other Oscar nomination for this movie was for supporting actor Michael Lerner, who played Lipnick.
Okay.
And that was weird to see. Because he has like 3 scenes in the entire movie.
Yeah, he's in that movie for 10 minutes.
And sure, he's
fine.
Decent enough character, but he's also
but why
exactly
not, like,
what you
John
would expect.
Goodman?
Yeah, why not John Goodman? That's what I'm saying. Like, John Goodman is like a great actor who just does not get the critical recognition. Now, John Goodman did get a Golden Globe nomination.
Okay.
Michael Lerner did not.
I even like the 2 detective guys more. I mean, like their the way they interacted with each other and with Barton was fun.
Yeah, very true. Richard Portnow and Christopher Murney were those 2 detectives. But yeah, Michael Lerner was not nominated for a Golden Globe. John Goodman was. Both of them lost to Jack Palance, though, in terms of the supporting actor category. We also got, we have to talk about Carter Burwell and Roger Deakins because they're involved in virtually every Coen Brothers movie. This is Roger Deakins, the cinematographer's first collaboration with the Coen Brothers, and he's done, I think, every single movie of theirs since. Mm-hmm. He's also done, he's won 2 Oscars. He's known as like one of the greatest cinematographers of modern history, right? He's won 2 Oscars, most recently for 1917, and then also he won for Blade Runner 2049. But he's been nominated 13 other times, twice in 1 year, where he was nominated for both No Country for Old Men as well as the assassination of Jesse James. He also did the cinematography for the 1991 movie Homicide, directed by David Mamet. Carter Burwell, like I said, he's done the score for virtually every single Coen Brothers movie except for Inside Llewyn Davis, which I liked more than you did.
Yeah.
He has 2 Oscar nominations, one for 3 Billboards. He also did the score for Doc Hollywood in 1991.
Huh.
Which I didn't catch on.
Ebbing, Missouri.
Ebbing, Missouri. Thank you. Yeah, I'm stupid. I should have wrote down the full title. I'm like, I'll remember it.
Nope.
No.
And then you make me try to figure it out.
Yeah. He also did the score for the 1991 movie Scorchers, which I don't really know, but we'll learn at some point. The other award that I have not mentioned yet, there's a couple things. At the Cannes Film Festival, where this premiered a couple months before the August 21st wide release that we are using for these purposes, it won the trifecta of Best Actor for John Turturro, Best Director for Joel Cohen, who at that time was not sharing credit with Ethan Cohen, probably because of Directors Guild regulation reasons, or maybe they didn't actually share the directing duties at that time, but now they typically have both of their names attached to the directing side. And it also won the Palme d'Or. It won the Best Film Award at Cannes. And then lastly, 1992 Mtb Movie Awards.
Oh, okay.
It's one of those montage things that doesn't have...
Was it like a burning hallway?
Supposedly, according to IMDb, there was a clip shown in the quotes montage. I don't know what quote it would be. Perhaps I'll show you the life of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps. And then also it was shown as one of the non-awarded, like interstitial things. Best inanimate objects.
Okay.
Which inanimate object, I don't know. Was it the box? Was it the typewriter?
Was it the mosquito?
Well, it's animate.
Was it the wallpaper?
Yeah, was it the wallpaper? Was it Pete, the elevator operator? No.
Was it?
It was probably the box, I guess. I don't know. So anyway, at some point, hopefully, we'll find a copy of the MTV Movie Awards and we can watch this stuff and take notes.
I had that.
Yeah. if anybody out there happens to have a copy of it taped off a TV, please, consider reaching out to us and letting us know. So those are the awards. That's the cast and crew. On to true crime / pop culture.
I was going to... So, also looking up in this mad stupor of information.
Mm-hmm.
So this hotel reminded me so much of the Cecil Hotel, which I asked you, do you know the story of the Cecil Hotel? You said no.
Just by name, I know this. I've heard the name.
It just blows my mind that you don't. So I
mean, you're so much more like interested in the true crime stuff.
I know.
And,
it's just like the people that I know and I'm friends with. When you mention the word Cecil Hotel, you're like, oh, okay, I know that.
It's
I
like,
was gonna
like,
talk
hey, do
about.
you know like this baseball team? You're like,
Yeah,
I've heard
I
of
know,
them. I'm like,
I know.
but you don't know their starting picture.
Right,
Yeah.
I know. It's just we don't have the
different
same
hobbies.
We have different interests. So I looked up, was this based off the Cecil Hotel? Because, the Cecil Hotel is in LA and it's known to be, the quote, murder hotel. And I looked up, did the Coen brothers base this off of the Cecil Hotel? I found like a list of random facts, and it is not. They took this hotel from a scary hotel that they stayed at while filming Blood Simple in Texas. They didn't give a name of the hotel. So I am not going to talk about...
not going to talk about the...
No, if it was based off the Cecil Hotel, then I would have gone into like the history, but there's a lot. That's like an extra hour, honestly, of talking about the history and deaths of the Cecil Hotel.
Yeah.
And then if you want to hear about the Cecil Hotel, there are honestly documentaries on Netflix about it. And there are a million podcasts about the Cecil Hotel. Like, I cannot do it justice. So, if there is another movie in the year 1991 that bases anything off of the Cecil Hotel, maybe I will go off into it.
There could be. There's a lot of horror stuff.
Yeah.
Especially in the direct-to-video realm that we haven't even touched yet. That could very well have some inspiration there.
So I'm going to move on to TV. I did look up... I looked up the music, but this is... Summer of 91 was Bryan Adams. So there is no top songs. Nothing new. It's the same top song for forever. I looked up some TV listings, and I found some new TV shows that I'm going to ask if you have seen or heard of these.
Well, first we should say that I want to say that we were going to watch an Unsolved Mysteries, but it was like the last summer week before the new season started, basically. So we didn't want to... We could have watched an August 28th episode, but we did not want to steal the thunder from our Shakes the Clown episode, right, which is going to come out at some point.
There's an August 28th release. So I was like... And I think because I knew we were going to talk a lot about this movie, I was like, let's not watch Unsolved Mysteries right now.
Yeah.
So on ABC, these are all repeats because it's summertime. So it was a repeat of Dinosaurs, The Wonder Years, Doogie Howser. There is a show called Davis Rules. Do you know this show, or have you heard of it?
I have heard of it. Oh, gosh. I don't
Do you want to know? Do you want to guess, or do you want me to tell you?
Is it a stand-up comedian starring in it with the last name of Davis?
Wait.
Like, is that the one that's like based off of Dave Barry's life?
No. I mean, you got comedian, right? But it's...
His last name is not Davis in real life? Oh, well then I don't know.
Okay. Davis Rules is a series starring Randy Quaid as Dwight Davis. He is a widowed elementary school principal who is raising his 3 sons with the help of his wacky father, Gunny Davis, who is played by Jonathan Winters. Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, from Mork and Mindy.
Yeah, he did a lot of... I looked him up. He did a lot of voice acting for a lot of, like he did Papa Smurf and the Smurfs.
He was also, like, a stand-up comedian, in, like, the Bob Newhart type of era. But, yeah, like, he played, like, oh, gosh, it's been so long since I've seen Mork and Mindy, but he played, like, the little kid in Mork and Mindy, even though he was, like, 20 years older than Robin Williams.
Yeah, it had Randy Quaid, Jonathan Winters, and it had his wife was played by Bonnie Hunt.
Oh, interesting.
And one of the teachers that he works with is Deborah Jo Rupp. She plays Ms. Higgins. She's, from the 70s show.
Yeah, the mom in that 70s show.
Patricia Clarkson was in that as like a neighbor, I think. Her name is Cosmo Yeargin. And another neighbor is played by Vonnie Ribisi, aka Giovanni Ribisi. He was known as Vonnie Ribisi in
So he like tried to like
switch
up his vibe, because I mean, like he started in like My Two Dads, right? Basically.
Yeah, he was kind of like the love interest.
But was he known as Vonnie Ribisi in his My Two Dads days? I thought it was like the full-on Giovanni.
I don't know if he was trying to like be hip and cool.
Maybe.
Because I know he was in like Blossom too, for like an episode.
That's an interesting cast. That's
I know.
I'm kind of surprised. I mean, obviously it must not have been that funny, but
it was
like,
only
good
lasts for
cast.
2 seasons. Yeah.
Oh, 2 seasons is more than I would have thought. So yeah,
After
0 for
Davis,
1. I'm 0 for 1.
Yeah, you're 0 for 1. After that was Anything But Love, which we talked about before. Mm-hmm. That was the TV show with Jamie Lee Curtis and Richard Lewis.
Mm-hmm. The one that I still got confused with J. Thomas Annie Potts show.
And after that was another show called Married People. Do you know?
That sounds familiar, but I don't know.
Show?
I don't think I would have watched it. But the title I definitely do recognize.
I have not. I've never heard of this.
Who's in it?
No one that I know.
Really?
It's a series following 3 couples in different stages of their relationships who live in the same building in New York City. So it's about a newlywed couple. The husband is played by someone by the name of Chris Young. I tried to look up anything that he's in a lot of random stuff. He was in Warlock and the movie PCU. I was like, who? He was like in Friends. He's in like random
bunch of small roles,
but I still can't put a face to a name. So they were all on like, it was like a first, second, third floor.
Sure. And then like
apartment
age groups.
So each age group. So they were the 3rd floor attendants. On the 2nd floor were the Myers, and they were, like a lawyer and a writer, and they were about to have a kid. So it's just, like an older couple, a couple that's newly married, a couple that's been married, they're about to have a kid, and it's about their lives.
Yeah.
That only lasted 1 season, but this show won an Emmy for outstanding technical direction, camera, and video.
Maybe they did some interesting stuff to like
move
between the floors
and stuff. Yeah, but it made me think, I don't know if you know of this video. Michel Gondry, he did like a Massive Attack video. It's through
Is it on that DVD
it's
of his music
DVD
videos?
That I have, yes.
Then I'm sure I've seen it.
I mean, I know it because I used to watch that DVD a lot. And I like that video and song. But it's a British apartment building. And it's just the camera's moving up and down the floors. And you see what people are doing in each apartment. Okay. So that's what I'm wondering. That's what this was?
Yeah, maybe it might have had something like that, at least in transitions. I don't know. Well, we found some. We got a stack of TV guides from 1991, so we can maybe like see if we can find some like promotional images for some of these shows that we can.
Yeah, if we
jog
can
our
find
memory at some point. We didn't have a TV guide reference for this particular week, but we did raid my parents and grabbed a stack of them for future episodes. So stay tuned. All right, so on to rankings and ratings. Where would you put Barton Fink on your 1 to 5 star scale?
I am going to give this movie a 4.
Is this your second 4 or third 4?
This is my third.
Third 4. All right.
My
so it's in your top 10
first
for sure.
third 4.
Your first third 4. She makes fun of me for not remembering how many ratings she has. Even though I monitor the ratings page on the website, I still don't remember anything. Yeah, my 0 to 4 star scale, I'm actually going to say it's a 3. Again, I think I think talking through it with you helped me quite a bit. Like, honestly, when we stopped watching the movie, I was thinking, like, I don't know if I liked this movie.
Oh.
Like, I don't know if I did or not. Like, I needed some time to kind of resonate, like, let it resonate and marinate in my head because, was it that I was expecting the wrong thing? Was it that just it doesn't hold up the way I think it should? Or that, or is it just like one of those middle-of-the-road Coen movies that people loved at the time, but maybe just doesn't, whatever. But no, I'm going to say 3 out of 4.
Well, what were you going to?
I don't know. I probably would have given it like a 2.5 or so. Oh. So it's not that much different, but like...
So I convinced you.
You convinced me to raise it up another like
half a star.
Yeah, at least a half.
All right.
Again, I do think the opening hour is too slow to go beyond that. Plus, a lot of the characters just aren't that memorable to me, other than John Goodman. I mean, they're decent enough; they're just not that memorable. But every movie's worth watching once. Would you watch it again?
I would, because I still have questions, and then maybe this is just kind of that type of movie that just doesn't have answers, like, a David Lynch movie.
Yeah. No,
I would just watch over and over to try to find meaning and different symbolism and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, I think if I were to watch it again with a commentary or some sort of a film historian's perspective, that would help a lot. But it's definitely that type of movie where you get to the end and you realize, oh, there might have been clues to all this stuff earlier on that I missed.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to watching it to try to find those clues, like more time travel type of stuff that you're talking about there. Like, how many other instances did we not catch that might have existed? So, if you want to watch Barton Fink, as of this recording in June 2021, it's only available on digital rental, VHS, or DVD. But as always, check your local listings because that could change. As for our podcast, you can listen to us on all of the major podcasting platforms. Please rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends. You can email us at 1991movierewind@gmail.com. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Letterboxd. Just search 1991 Movie Rewind or go to 1991movierewind.com for the full list of 800 plus movies, along with show notes and more. Next week, we'll be watching Only Yesterday, which is available on HBO Max and DVD, no digital rental or VHS for that one. We'll see you then.
Thanks.